league record 611 yards in one game.
Wow, right in the mouth. No chance. Nobody picked up the
Marc, the guy that says the cuts will be made on the basis of can you help the team win games. Well, plays like that help you win games. So his stock up tonight. He played collegiately, Marc at the University of Richmond from Fall River, Mass.
So we do the challenge leg first, right? So that's left leg in front, right? So chest up, chin, hold my hands. So ready, chest up, look over my shoulder. All right, so you're gonna take a step back, touch the knee, and stand back up. Bend, back up. All right, you're good. Hands right here, shoulders back, take your eyes right here, right there. Look up, chin up. You're gonna reach back with your foot. Stand back up to the top, bring your foot all the way back up here, all the way back up here. Good, back down, 10 times.
I fractured my femur and a couple of chunks out of my posterior. I came down to Miami to do my rehab. I called up Marc. I says, Marc, I'm kind of in a tough spot. I said, I have to do some rehab and I'd like you to train me. And I came in with a walker. Marc looked at me, he says, well, the first thing you gotta do is get rid of that walker.
He's gonna crush it today. Let's go. You are.
And he says, there are two things. Can you do it mentally and can you do it physically? I said, the physical part, I can do. But the mental part, I'm having a tough time with.
All right, so this is the last one. We're gonna do 12 reps. We've never done 12 reps in a row before. We're doing it today. So face me.
So I needed a special person that I could train with. I knew that this was the only guy that I could train with because I knew that he wouldn't push me too hard, but he'd know exactly how to push me to get the best performance out of me.
By the way, he's from Boston, the great state, the great city in the great state.
Everything good in history.
Technically, the great city's Fall River. We both know that.
We both know that.
So the banter back and forth was an immediate hook for me because he was from Massachusetts.
Everything from a historical point that has been great began in Massachusetts.
I can name one.
In Massachusetts.
JFK?
Yeah.
Other side? Larry Bird?
Yeah. No, but I mean, history-wise.
Oh, history.
I mean, is
What
that
else?
where everything started?
Pilgrims?
You got it.
Pull us back.
And I kind of think that because we connected like that was that he misses home.
Fall River is a tough city, you know what I mean? Especially at the time when we were growing up. Fall River was one of the strongest and most powerful industrial cities. But once the Industrial Revolution passed us by, we had a city just filled with all these mills and factories that are now dormant.
Fall River was made up of a lot of those different types of neighborhoods.
Even going back to my parents' generation, where they knew what nationality you were based on what parish you were. So if you were Sacred Heart, you were Irish. If you were St. Stan's, you were Polish. If you were St. Anne's, you were French-Canadian. If you were St. Anthony of the Desert, you were Lebanese.
Very tight-knit. The people that lived there forever. So there was a good bond in the neighborhood, but you also, you fought a lot.
Even if you travel just within Massachusetts and people ask, well, where are you from? Well, I'm from Fall River. And they look at you, well, so what? Where were you from? You know, you almost want to tell them what to do, really do.
You get the hairy eye, you know what I mean? People give you the hairy eye like, oh, Fall River.
There is something inherent in people from Fall River. It's just this kind of chip, I'd say. Everyone has a little chip on their shoulder because they're always, wherever people from Fall River go, they're always kind of looked down upon a little, like Fall River.
Coming from this city humbles you and shows you where rock bottom can be. But there's good that comes from this city too. It ain't all just bad. It's not like, this is the way everybody in Fall River is, because it isn't.
Most people are so adapt to what's going on already and that's all it is. It's either drugs or violence or whatever, and you grow up around that. You just fall into that trap, not being able to find your way out of it, not being able to realize the difference because you don't know anything other than that.
And it's kind of like the little brother effect, like you can't make fun of it, only I can. So you stick up for the city. And
one thing about Fall River is that everyone from Fall River has a massive, massive sense of pride about Fall River. You know what I mean? Is the fact that, you know what I mean, I came from Fall River and it taught me a lot of things. It taught me, the streets taught me, you know what I mean, just as much as the classroom.
But Fall River, you know, with the bad, there's a lot of good in Fall River, you know, and Marc's a good example of that.
Growing up in Fall River for the Megners, I mean, it was great in the beginning because our parents were together and everything was going. My father was city council. We had a well-known name because of my father. My mother was a majorette. My father was a basketball player. We had two great, healthy, church-going Catholic individuals, but, you know, behind closed doors, I mean, we don't know what's going on between them. We just see what children see.
Yeah, I remember good things. I think things became more clear after my mother was on her own.
They separated, and it was very difficult for my mother to raise two kids.
It's the kind of house, and you've heard it before, that you know, you don't know what you don't have because your mother makes you feel like you have everything.
I'm 3 years older than my brother, Marc, and it affected me more than my brother. But as we got older, I see that my brother had nobody to look up to. I mean, I knew my father a little bit more than Marc did, and I was supposed to be an older brother to my brother, Marc, but I didn't know how to be myself.
You know, my brother was the best athlete I knew. And he was my hero because I looked up to him, and he was, you know, aggressive, but he was fast. He was very athletic. He was smart, and I wanted to be like him. And because of the way he looked, I would always be hard on myself, and I would think that, you know, why is this kid such a, you know, fit-looking young athletic person, and look like a snowball or, you know, a Humpty Dumpty.
He was this very round little blonde boy who always wore this same yellow t-shirt that was a Junior Marines t-shirt, and he would always say he wanted to be in the Marines. It had a bulldog on the front, and he was always this little sweaty kid.
I've known Marc since he was nine years old, coming in as a fat little chubby kid, always asking questions.
He had a big appetite. The adults always got on him about it. He would circle the table until someone gave him some food.
You know, they had the big table of food, so they couldn't really keep track of you, the parents or your aunts or your uncles. There were probably times where Marc would, you know, go for an extra, but I think I did too. I still do.
I used to see him playing by himself all the time because he used to be upset because his brother and his friend didn't want to play with him because little chunky kid and all that. And
he was no more special than anyone else. He was this chubby little kid, and he decided in you know, maybe 6th grade that he wanted to be a football player, and we would kind of like laugh at him when he would say that.
He kind of struggled with being bullied and kids picking on him. He was a little chunkier when he was younger.
My brother used to have a brace on his leg because he was growing too fast, but we didn't know that. We just thought, you know, people thought he was a big kid, a husky kid, and they thought he would never run. My brother would not tell pretty much anybody that he was struggling, and he would keep it all inside of him. A lot of kids, they don't want to be picked up. They don't want to be picked up on a team because they're big. They're getting bullied because of their size. I mean, it brings anger out. You get real angry inside. And I think my brother harnessed that anger and found that he didn't want to be big anymore, and he didn't want to be picked on. I'm sure it was tough for him. So when we were younger, we went public skiing once, and he was getting picked on by some bully, a local bully. And I was scared because this kid was like a local bully, and I wasn't that tough. And my brother, stood up to the bully, and he actually fought the kid inside the back room of the skating rink. You know, and that, I think that's where he started becoming a warrior. You know, I'm just crying because I should have been a better brother to my brother. So
at some point, he decided to do something about it.
I think that in that moment, there was like a confidence bomb went off, and I was like, I'm not gonna let anyone take advantage of me, my family, my friends, and I'm gonna do the very best I can with no matter what I have, right? No matter what cards I'm dealt, I'm gonna do the very best I have, and I'm not gonna let anything like that ever happen again, because I realized that we all have something special inside us, and you should never let anyone treat you that way, ever.
That anger he harnessed it. You know, people turn to drugs, people turn to drinking. He used it in the weight room, and he says, okay, I'm gonna change my body.
In middle school, we had everybody was over at our house, and we had ordered pizza and gotten soda, and my mother was always baking something, so I think she had made, cookies or brownies or whatever, and Marc was like, oh, thank you very much, but I'm really trying to eat healthy, and I don't want to eat anything with sugar in it. And so he had a salad, and I'm sure my mother made him, like some grilled chicken or something.
So our 8th grade year, I went to one middle school, he went to another. And then the following year when we met back up at Durfee, he was a total different kid. Like size-wise, he shrunk, he was in great shape. I was like, wow, Marc, what happened to you? And he's like, just been working out. And it was funny because during that time, when we were at the little summer program, whenever we would have snack or whatever, he was always eating carrots, celery, strictly vegetables, drinking water. He wouldn't mess with any of the coffee cakes that they had, the chocolate milk.
Wow. What happened? Where'd you come from? You know what I mean?
Marc always, far and away, was more disciplined than anyone else around him. The rest of us were more typical high school kids. There were a lot of really good athletes that really put a huge amount of time and effort into their sport. Very, very often, Marc would, say, no, I can't do that. I've got to practice in the morning. I'm going to work out at 5. And we'd be like, work out at 5? Like, do you have something else to do tomorrow? Why don't you work out at 8 and then you can still come out tonight? And he was like, nope, this is my routine, this is my schedule. And whatever his decision was, there was a reason behind it. And he would tell you what the reason is, and you could come at him with 1,000, counter arguments, and he was not changing his mind. He was gonna do whatever it was. And he wasn't gonna entertain your reasoning either. Like, this was it, this is what he was doing, and that was it.
Never met somebody with so much drive to want to do something and complete it and stay doing it.
Usually kids don't figure it out at that age. At his age, I mean, they're just out there having fun.
My grandparents and my great aunt had these little summer houses or trailers down on the water in Tiverton, Rhode Island. It's on the Narragansett Bay, but it's an inlet. It's gotta be a half a mile across. And at one point, Marc, for training, started swimming back and forth across. And it's not, there's waves and muddy and seaweed and, but that's what he would do. That's how dedicated he is.
So I said about in the morning, before school. He's like, I can run to school. I said, whoa, run to school? You can run, or we'll get up early, take your shower, then go to, no, this guy get up, run to school. Take a shower there, and be ready for the day. Get out of school, football practice, running it to lighten up. So everything you give him, and that made sense to him, he would take it to the extreme.
He would put all these posters of all the Sports Illustrated people that lifted weights. I mean, when you went in his room, there wasn't one stitch of the wall left without being covered with bodybuilders or football players or athletes. I mean, that's focus.
Definitely wasn't a gifted athlete. Everything he has, he worked for.
He always had to work harder because everybody was better. That was his mentality. Everybody's better, everybody's more gifted. I have to work harder.
His motivation, it was intense. Like, you could tell right off the bat, like, he's intense. He's all about, football, being the best he could at it.
He wasn't a talker, he was a doer. He led by action.
people would go to school and they see this giant person doing suicides in the parking lot, like suicide sprints, you know, running, doing hills, and people were like, who is this kid? And he's like, that's Marc. How come he's not out with all the other guys partying? But no, Marc's doing suicides.
I'd be in class, we called it flex class at the time, or study hall, and I'm looking out the window and he's out there running on the track, running sprints, all by himself, and I'm like, this guy's crazy. He's out there all by himself sprinting during his free time.
It didn't matter if it was snowing, cold, he would do that every day. And guess what? It paid off for him. It paid off.
I saw Marc as a freshman. He came in, so we would do Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Marc came in, we had a very ragtag weight room. He was coming in, he was very serious. Never smiled, just very serious, lifting, very committed. He was in on it. A lot of kids over his high school time, they would last one day with Marc to go lift. They couldn't make it after. They'd be either too sore or saying this is too tough, and they wouldn't hang.
Just his work ethic alone, it was crazy. It was amazing to watch. You know,
You don't want a Marc Megna workout. You don't want it,
Yeah.
Incredible.
It was a basketball city. It always had been a basketball city, right? Because they had a history of winning state championships and New England titles for years, going back 50, 60 years. Football was kind of always an afterthought.
Even to the 50s and 60s, Fall River was known as a basketball city. Football players really weren't a known commodity in Fall River.
A group of basketball players that were about 5 years older than us had won back-to-back state championships. My cousin was one of the star players on that team, and another, one of our other good friends, Chris Herron, who we graduated with, his brother was on that team. So we followed them. We went to all their games. We watched what they were doing, and they were like gods, not only to us, but in the city. They could do whatever they wanted everywhere they went. People knew who they were and were shaking their hands and, giving them free meals. And so they were in, front page of the paper all the time.
So to see someone like Marc kind of, rise through the ranks and to get recruited playing football is pretty unique.
Marc never scored a touchdown in his career. He didn't play the sexy position. I always said Marc was the best story nobody knew about.
The two biggest athletes in school that year were Chris Herron and Marc Megna. I think they had a good relationship between the two of them.
Chris was the basketball star. Marc was the football player, and just the path that they took was different. Chris was the party guy, right? And he'll tell you that. And Marc just didn't really get involved with it. He just knew, I can't do that. And maybe part of it was because of Chris just had that. If you went to a high school basketball game and saw him, he was so out of those kids' leagues, like just that raw talent. He would probably have 3 or 4 turnovers a game when it was just, he'd throw a pass, it would hit a kid off the head. Like they just weren't at his that level, right? And Marc knew he was Marc had to work at it, right? It was a process. He had to work through it. And Chris practiced and worked hard, but he was at that age, at that level, it wasn't even close. He could put a ball down for a month and come back and still, score 25 points in a game. Marc wasn't like that.
He had to work for everything he's got. Everything. He grew up on Stetson Street. His mother worked 2-3 jobs. And she was a single mom. He literally had to work for everything he had.
He'd put his whole heart and soul out on the field, and if you're playing with him, you're gonna do the same. Most guys, you're like, I gotta go to practice today, whatever. He's like, yeah, let's go. All excited to get out there on the field to play.
Marc loved double sessions, which kids don't. And even coaches, it's a necessary grind. You got to do it. It's very important, but they don't truly love it. And Marc loved the workouts. He loved the sprints. He loved everything to do with it. We had our first scrimmage against Boston College High School, and Marc was still playing defensive end, and they kept running away from him. BC High just wouldn't run near him. We put him in the middle of the defense. We said, now no one can run away from him. Chase, go get the ball. And we're like, and Marc was a kid we talked about all the time. He said, get from point A to point B and get there in a really bad mood. And Marc would get there in a really bad mood every time.
He listened. So if you asked him to do something, he was going to do it, and he'd try to do it perfectly, just the way you set it up. Extremely focused as well. So when coaches were speaking, coaches were talking, You know, Marc's not screwing around in the back. He's up front. He's listening.
He would be in and out of the office a lot. I'm not making this up, I swear to God. He'd be practicing like swim moves, like as he's like going into the office and like spinning around, and I'm like, that's interesting, right? But then I realized, oh, that's a football guy, right? Well, there you go, right?
My big goal and dream was at that time was to play college football.
You gotta have a good film against a good team. Brockton is the standard.
The Big Three schedule gets underway as the Durfee Hilltoppers come to town to take on the Brockton Boxers.
They were just big, strong, tough kids.
We were playing them away. We were in their house, and they just expected us to just be crumbled and destroyed. And we were winning the game. And at one point, we're on defense, we're in the huddle, and I'm standing right there. You know, Marc's getting ready to call the play, and we can hear them, you know, in their huddle screaming, "This is for the Super Bowl. We can't lose to these guys. Let's go." And we all heard it. And Marc heard it. He's like, he turns to us and says, "Did you hear that?" And he started freaking out on us. He's like, "Let's go." Like, so everybody just, the intensity just grew from there.
He tore him up the whole game.
Who makes the stop? Number 54. Marc Megna again. Outstanding player.
That's your film.
At the time, I thought I was, you know, playing very well, but there was no attention from any colleges.
A lot of the Atlantic 10 coaches would call and they'd ask, and I told every coach, I said, "This kid will be your captain someday." And it's just, yeah, because they see my age, and they go, "He's just shooting his mouth off." And I'm like, "You don't understand. This kid will be your captain. So you want him on your team."
Nobody else offered him. Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Boston College, certainly, UMass. Nobody else offered him.
The only two schools that took it seriously were Richmond, obviously through Coach Reed, and Northeastern.
And sent me a tape. And what I saw was a 6-foot, 230-pound average player at best. And then he kept saying, you've got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy.
And a guy that I played with that was a captain at UMass, Nick Salmon, was coaching offensive line at Durfee High School. Nick calls Coach Reed, says, "Coach, you got to take this guy. He's your type of guy." I mean, just on and on and on. Then he calls me because we were very close. "You don't take this guy, I'll never call you again."
So I met him. And I felt when I got out of there that there was like these beams of light that just, from his eyes, that just were drilling right through my skull. I mean, you know, he was so focused on every single word. And every time he had an opportunity to say, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." Then, you know, then he would say it. "Now, Marc, college football is tough." "Yes, sir." "Okay. You got to lift." "Yes, sir." "You got to run." "Yes, sir." I mean, everything.
I think when Coach Reed saw what Marc had and saw the determination, I'm gonna get choked up. That Coach Reed became like a father figure to my brother, and he picked him up and gave him the chance. And if you give a Megna a chance, Marc Megna a chance, he's gonna reward you.
When he walked up to me, he said, "Marc, my name is Jim Reed. I'm the defensive coordinator at the University of Richmond." Okay? And he shook my hand and he said, "I want to offer you a full scholarship to the University of Richmond." When I heard that, I didn't really know what it meant. I'm gonna be real honest. And I said, "Well, I don't know if I can afford to go to school there." And the coach looks at me like, "Oh, this is embarrassing." He says, "Marc, you're gonna go play college football for free." And I said, "Oh, how far away is that?" He said, "It doesn't matter, you're going." I ran home, I told my mom, I said, "Mom, man, I'm going to college, I'm going to the University of Richmond." My mother's watched TV, she's like, "Who told you that?" I said, "There's a little guy," because Coach Reed was only this tall, but he was tough, man. Oof. I'm calling Coach Bogan, that was my high school coach. She calls Coach Bogan, she says, "Coach Bogan, Marc thinks he's going to college." I said, "Did you tell Marc he's going to college?" He's like, "No, wait, no, I didn't tell him he's going to college. Jim Reed said he's going to college." "Well, you better tell that man to stop telling my son lies because we know he's not going to college." He said, No, he is going to college. He's going to college." And my mother hung up the phone. Yep, she was crying. She was crying, it was hard for her, and she couldn't believe that her son, her baby, was going to college.
Now, there's another dynamic that comes into play here with Marc Megna. And that's his mother, who I dearly love. What she said about Marc and how she raised him, because there was no dad in the house, how she raised him and the older brother, Mike, was with the same high character expectations that a football coach has for his players. So in this family of three who were tight, all three of them tight, and the leadership of Marc's mother made me almost cry, even now as I say it. And I said to myself as I walked out, we're going after this guy as hard as we can. I've got to convince him to come to Richmond because Richmond is a great match for somebody like this. And then we'll put our staff around him. They'll love him like the father that he didn't have and what the mother expects us to do. And that's exactly what happened.
I think that's where it was the best decision. I think that was the changing point in his life right there.
If you didn't love football and everything that entailed, the discipline, work ethic, focus, intensity, attitude, you weren't going to last very long with Coach Reed.
I'm watching this and I'm watching, Coach Reed. I'd never seen anything like that at the time.
Totally different thing than I'd been exposed to previously in any sport, the intensity of those guys.
Those guys were intense.
He just, the passion that he did things with. It's like, yeah, coach, yes, let's go, head first into the deep end.
Coach Reed was a grinder. We spent a lot of hours up here.
Jim Reed knew exactly the kind of guy he wanted on his team.
I remember having a meeting saying, we're going to go to work.
From a personnel standpoint,
Coach Reed, of course, was a guy that always recruited people that he liked big linebackers because big linebackers that were tough and could run and were athletic would always be good defensive linemen.
He kind of moved safeties to linebackers. He wanted speed on the field. Linebackers to DNs and tight ends inside the tackles. I was a fullback linebacker in high school. That's what I thought I was going as, but with day one, I started learning nose tackle. And Marc, the first year, was a linebacker off the ball. If you put him down on the line, we were selling the fact that you can just go and create havoc. And we did. In 1995, we made him a defensive tackle. Free technique, called the under tackle. The Warren Sapps, the Keith Millards, the great under tackles, Gerald McCoy, who I coached in Tampa. Marc Megna became that for us and was absolutely dominating.
I got called into Coach Reed's office, and he said, Marc,
do you know I love you, Marc? Yeah. Right? Do I love your mother? Yeah. I love your family. Yeah. Do I want you to be successful? Yep. Then trust me. Do you trust me? Yep. You're a defensive lineman. That's it.
That was a very one-sided conversation. He believes in me a heck of a lot more than I did in myself at the moment. So I knew I was in for it.
What about the relationship between Marc and Coach Cullen?
Yeah, it was like...
Coach Joe was a guy that, he was a guy that, I've never been around a guy like Joe, really.
Oh, my goodness.
Coach Cullen was a different type of breed of character.
That was talk about tough love. Coach Cullen is, at that time, oof.
It was an interesting relationship.
Marc reminds me a little of Cullen, to be honest with you.
They were made out of the same cloth.
It was like Coach Cullen and then Coach Cullen Jr. They were almost the same human being.
He and Marc were cut from the same cloth.
If you could put a older version of Marc, that's what Joe Cullen was.
They were Massachusetts guys. They were both defensive linemen. They were both high energy guys. They were both high effort guys. They were both told they couldn't do something, and they both did it. I think maybe Northeastern was the only other school to offer Marc Megna. Coach Reed offered Marc Megna. Boston University was going to offer Joe Cullen a partial scholarship. Jim Reed offered Joe Cullen a full scholarship. So it says it right there. They were one and the same.
And Joe was 150 miles an hour, 150 times a day. I mean, this guy, there was no bound of his energy. I mean, it was just every snap he wanted to murder the guy in front of him. I mean, it was really something. And we had to control Joe, okay? Number 97. Coach, yeah. The official would come over, Coach, yeah, what do you want? 97 is sticking his hand in the center's throat every time. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, Joe, yeah, don't stick your hand in the center's throat. Oh, come on, Coach, that's no. That's an illegal tactic. Okay, I won't do it anymore. You know, that type of thing. He's holding guys. God almighty, he was the highest active player I have ever coached in my life until we got Marc.
Let's go! Let's go!
If you bust your tail and have great football character, and that's doing everything you possibly can to be as good as you can be, then I'll fight the GM, the head coach to keep you, the head coach at a major college to recruit you, or to keep you, or to play you. But if you don't work hard and don't work at your craft, then it's probably not going to work.
Marc developed Joe's personality. I mean, he want everything Marc did, he wanted to please Joe.
Marc played the game the way Joe played the game, but more importantly, the way Joe coached the game.
Cullen turned Marc into a beast. And almost like whatever Cullen threw at him, Marc could do.
At times, Joe could pull his chain.
He knew exactly how to push Marc's buttons.
He just knew how to motivate Marc. I don't know if Marc took it as motivation. It certainly seemed like it did, you know, from my perspective.
Despite the fact that Marc Megna was a phenomenal self-motivator and an extremely hard worker, he would just push Marc's buttons.
He squeezed every ounce of potential out of every player that he got.
I think that he knew what he needed to do for Marc to make him the best possible player that he could be.
I don't think there could have been a better coach at a better time for Marc in Marc's life.
And I've coached some magnificent, high-energy players, but, you know, none can compare to those two guys. I mean, they just can't.
He was the perfect coach for him.
Like, everyone has a coach that was tough, but even the players that I played with at Richmond and the ones I talked to in the NFL about Coach Joe Cullen, you cannot describe what he is, who he is, what playing for him is like.
There was nothing better than pregame Coach Cullen.
I can't, it's hard to even describe.
You know, borderline nuts.
People were telling me, hey, get ready. And I was like, what are you talking about?
I think it was Jamie Game. It was like, man, watch out for Cullen. Like, just keep your head on a swivel, cause. And that's all he said. I'm like, okay, that's a weird thing to say to somebody.
Put your helmet on, put your mouthpiece in, put your head down, stare at the carpet. And I'm like, what's gonna happen?
Boom! What was that? And music is blaring in my ears. Dad!
Like, oh my God.
These guys, it's like they have a knife to your mother's throat.
They're coming into your house with a knife. They're coming after your mother.
Death. Destruction.
He's just screaming, death, destruction, famine.
Death, destruction, and famine. And I'm like, wow, really? I thought we were just playing football. Famine.
Murder. Red rum, murder.
I'm like, what in the hell is happening right now?
Flying off the handle, and they'd start kicking trash cans, throwing things.
And he'd work himself into such a lather that he would start throwing up. And he would grab one of the big industrial-sized trash cans and throw up in it.
Puking in garbage cans, screaming and yelling, tearing his shirts.
And then he would start taking the trash cans and kicking them and throwing them around the locker room.
He takes trash and just chunks the trash can across the room.
Vomit. Poor kid never even saw it coming. He's just like in his locker, and all of a sudden it's just whoosh. It's just all over him.
They took somebody's Walkman back in the day and smashed it on the ground.
Everyone's looking at each other like, what is...
We haven't even gone out. I don't think one person's gone out for stretch yet. And he is in a full sweat.
And I'm like, I make eye contact with Jamie Game. I'm like, oh, head on the swivel. Got it, because I might get hit with a trash can.
And you can imagine the scene, right? Like right before the game. Like, thanks, coach. This is, now we got to go out and play a game, and there's stuff everywhere.
Like, what's going to happen next? You know what I mean?
Things did change markedly, I thought, when Coach Reed came. Walking to class in the morning and seeing a coach standing outside the classroom door, making sure that players were in class, was a wonderful thing, because it really signaled to us as faculty that the coaches were supportive of students being students as well as athletes.
If you had 2.4 or below, then you were in the library with the head coach on Saturdays and Sundays. And if you can remember, as soon as it opened on Saturday, we were there. 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it was. And then Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning, as soon as it opened. So that infringed a little bit on potential social life on a Friday or a Saturday night. Everything has a reason.
Yeah. They weren't allowed to talk in study hall. If they talked, they got up early in the morning and ran. You had them in the library for hours on the weekends. He didn't put up with any crap, I can tell you that.
I felt I could call up Coach Reed at any time and say, I'm having an issue here. Can you help me with that? And it would be, sure, we'll take care of it. And it would be taken care of.
6 a.m. on the track, get your chair. I go out there and nobody was there. This is how shook they had me. I was like, I'm pretty sure Jim Reed is around here somewhere. They probably got cameras up here. I literally ran the laps with the chair on my head with nobody out there. Like, I did it because I was like, I'm not gonna be that guy. They're testing me, you know what I'm saying?
You know, my entire life, the things that have always been incredibly challenging to me have been physical activity and moving and running and lifting weights, and nothing was ever harder than that. And as hard as those things have become for me, because at every level it got harder, all of the physical challenges and adversity was nothing compared to the academics in college. Classes were very small, and you not only had to participate, but you had to add great value. You had to study every single night. And I had never been exposed to academic rigors like that. There was a heavy demand, not only on academics, but on athletes who were on scholarship to perform well in the classroom. And I was certainly in over my head.
When it started, it was tough because he just didn't have the background you need for college students.
What he did for Marc, in my view, was organize his thoughts, because Marc is always 100 miles an hour. Oh, no, slow down.
So he'd get frustrated. If he couldn't grasp what you're trying to get frustrated.
It's nice to say that, I'm so far behind, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, if I just put in the work, I'm gonna be fine, but I felt completely lost, and I didn't know what to do from there.
And I just try to tell him, you can do it. I mean, I will help you, but you can do it.
Academics, right? Slow down. You have to read the whole book. It's not fast pace. It's preparation for the test. It's preparation for the paper. You have to cite sources. Therefore, slow down, read the book, take notes.
It was so bad, I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And there was a moment where I got to call my mother and have a conversation and prepare her for what may be coming down the road, which is not making it. When I call her, she says, how's it going? And I told her the truth. I said, athletically, it's not going well. I'm not going to play here. And academically, it's bad. Like, it's really bad. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And the struggle, like, it's not like you can work hard and overcome it. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm completely outmatched. You could tell, like, on the call, she was very disappointed. I think more than anything with my attitude, but, you know, I said, I'm not gonna make it here. You know, I'm not gonna make it here. And it was very silent. I think she kind of wanted me to process what I was saying, because it was a big deal. I had never said that before. And I was scared, you know? I was scared. And I was even more scared to say that to my mother, who, this is a person who worked their entire life to make sure her boys are okay, and I'm saying I can't stick it out at a beautiful school. And like, I mean, at the time it's adversity, but I mean, how hard is it, you know? But to me, there was so much stress and I was so overwhelmed that it was hard. She's quiet on the phone and she responds and she says, you know, you have to understand something. Not doing well is okay, but quitting is a completely different thing. If you quit and you come back to Fall River, you're gonna resent that every day for the rest of your life. She says, you can't quit. It just doesn't work that way. If you quit one time, you're gonna quit at everything for the rest of your life, and you will make excuses to do so. That was one of the most powerful conversations that I ever had with my mother. And a few days later in the mail, I get this long, beautiful letter from her describing my upbringing and what she thought I was capable of. And she put a post-it on the front and she wrote a quote that she pulled out of a magazine. It said, "Dream big, never quit." And I took that and I basically carried it around with me everywhere. And then I decided to put it on the wall so I could see it when I woke up and when I went to bed. And for the season, I would put it in my locker. So before practice or before a game, I was ready, and I saw that. And that was just a simple reminder of, this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done, but you can certainly do it. You know, my mother believed that you're always in it. Like, you're always in the fight. You just can't give up, because most people just give up. But I made a decision that I'm going to give insane effort at everything I do, because that's the only way I'll be able to pay it back to her.
And Marc always showed up, and he was willing to do the work.
And now he became a terrific student.
You know, I want to win the game. They won the game. I think they played a great game. Congratulations to Rutgers, but now it's on to University of Massachusetts. I'm already thinking about them. I can't wait to play them. But I mean, hey, it's a loss. It's a loss. And I think we can play with them, but we didn't win. You know, I want to win.
Everything he has ever done is to make himself just a tiny bit better.
Coaches obviously lead the program, right? But it's also very important that you have amongst your peers guys that sort of set a tone.
I don't know that our program would have had the same intensity, even with the same coaches who were like-minded.
Marc was the catalyst, and he just brought the juice and the energy every day.
I think anybody at this level, if you're gonna have any success at the college level, you gotta be able to, 0 to 10, you gotta be able to get to a 10, right? I had never seen anybody get to a 10.5 and stay there.
He became a workout warrior. There was nobody that worked harder than this guy.
There was a point in time for all the sort of core lifts. Marc owned every record at the University of Richmond.
Marc Megna's motor is legendary. I don't know where he gets it. I just don't know how a human being can push themselves to the wall and climb over it that fast.
Even on days where it was, 110 degrees, this guy was going 100 miles an hour. We're walkthroughs and he's 100 miles. I mean, I've never seen anything like that.
You got to remember, we're all 18 years old, 19 years old. It was rare for somebody our age to work that hard.
You know that feeling like the opening kickoff, when you just want to get that first hit out, you just got that ball of it juice and energy, and it's in you, and it's that first play, and you just got it. He was like that on play 82.
Marc is the type of person that you're not going to outwork him, and that he has that mindset, and he made that his mind up, I believe, at a very early age that no one's going to outwork him.
In my life experience, not just my Richmond experience, I don't know if I've come across a guy who's worked harder.
And the thing is, he's a perfectionist. So he was gonna, if he did something wrong, and I'm the type of coach that will make you do it over till it's right, and Marc was gonna get it right. He was gonna get it right if it took him till midnight to do it.
But the way he worked absolutely made other people better, because you could not go half-assed with him, because if that happened, you'd be embarrassed.
You could not take a play off with Marc Megna being a part of your inside run or any of your drills, because if you were going to do that, you were going to get your ass kicked. I mean, and that's from somebody who was just watching.
You knew that every day, whether you wanted to be there or not, or whether anybody else wanted to be there, Marc was going to be the first guy in line. He was going to want to win every single drill. He was going to yell, he was going to scream, and he was going to bring the energy. And your option were you either go along with it or kind of disappear.
And it wasn't just him. Like it was kind of the group. Like that was the culture of the team at that time. It was like hard work was kind of how is what we based our program on.
Every day you're just trying to match it. Even if you couldn't get to where he was because it's so high, you had to try, you had to get there.
There's few people in the world I respect more from a work ethic standpoint than Marc Megna, because no challenge is too great for him.
What happens when you step over that line on the side? He said, I become a totally different person.
He had the ability to flip the switch.
And then it was like, as soon as he stepped across the white lines, like it was super Megna.
He was a different person on the field. Like Montgomery, he was an animal on the field.
Wow, what a nice guy he is. And then he put the helmet and shoulder pads on.
He was just another person. He was, the intensity level went up. He was an animal.
It was his world. Everybody loves football, but it was his world.
There were times Coach Reed would get him out, but you couldn't practice, couldn't get a playoff. That was the thing with Marc, because he went so hard all the time.
If, for whatever reason, he would go against Eric King, who was a terrific player, Eric Beatty, he would go against those, Joe Douglas. And if they ever, by chance were able to lock on him in one-on-one pass rush, oh man, that was brutal.
Marc hardly ever lost a one-on-one. I can't recall, and then if he did, the end of the world set in.
I was going against the best. He was the best in the league. He was the best the league had to offer. So the fact that I got to go against him in scout team and, Bert Horsley and Jordan Takis, those guys going against Marc Megna and scout team just made us better.
But it was a war every day. It was a war every day.
The battles that our interior guys would have with him would just be every practice. I mean, you just knew it was going to be a long day.
When we were on the field, it was, I didn't want to lose to him. He didn't want to lose to me.
I can remember the look on King's face if he would beat Marc. He was quite proud of himself.
I've seen him and Eric King getting a couple of good tussles.
And walking back to the huddle and just being like, do you believe what he just did? You know what I mean? And just thinking like, okay, the next time we run that play, if he tries to do that again, this is what we're gonna do.
And if a fight broke out, it wasn't gonna be good. Marc not only could play good, I probably shouldn't say this, but he could fight good. So they didn't want any part of him.
That was the day that Marc they were like, whoa. I mean, an undersized defensive lineman just cutting through that offensive line. It's a highly regarded offensive line like butter. I mean, it was awesome.
I mean, that UVA game, he was unbelievable. I mean, first of all, we were in the game the whole time. We were playing at Scott Stadium. There's like 60,000 people.
Here's a guy who maybe has a little chip on his shoulder that wanted to show those guys on the other sideline, I could have been on your sideline if you had just given me a chance. And, I think all the players go into that kind of game thinking that only the special ones actually do it, and he did it that day.
He made it a long day for Virginia.
They had Aaron Brooks, St. Clair, Crowell, Terrence Wilkins, Thomas Jones was on their offense, and a tight end, I think, was all on their offense. And obviously on defense, they had Anthony Poindexter. So those guys that I just mentioned were all draft picks, every single one of them.
You know, you got George Welsh on the other side, and those guys were the real deal.
We were gassed, and I wanted to give him a blow. And I left him in, and he just took over the game, him and Sean Barber.
Marc single-handedly manhandled. By the end of the game, they were double teaming him.
I watched every play of that game, and I swear he spent half the afternoon in their backfield.
He made a play on a counter OT, like I said, bang in the backfield. Then they tried to run the counter OT boot. He read it.
He tossed the lineman.
Aaron Brooks didn't realize how fast he was, how fast Marc was.
Ran him down, dragged Aaron Brooks, who's a big guy. He's 6'4".
One-handed grab over on away from our bench.
It was Aaron Brooks. I mean, here's a guy who won a bunch of playoff games in the NFL with the Saints. He was a really good quarterback.
He had a great game. We ended up with 5 sacks in the game and held Thomas Jones to 20-something yards.
We were playing at a different level. Marc Megna wasn't playing at a different level. I mean, he was constantly in the backfield, high intensity.
Wow, if this guy can play this well, I mean, it wasn't just like he was out there holding his own. If this guy can kick ass against UVA, I think the sky's the limit.
I think everyone who was on that sideline or who watched that film post, who witnessed that, had an extraordinary amount of respect for the fact that, he flashed against, at the time, the best competition University of Richmond had ever faced.
He was a nose guard. He was a 250-pound nose guard, and the disruption he caused in games. I mean, I can't believe he led the country in sacks as a nose guard. No one does that.
Marc Megna was one of the first players that I had come across that in a game when it was tight and the defense was on the field, you're like, Marc's got to make a play. Marc made the play. Now, again, I've coached for 38 years, and I've coached some good players in all levels of football. But I still, to this day, Marc needs to make a play. So, Marc knocks back the center from James Madison into the quarterback who fumbles the ball, and we win the game. I mean, Marc made those plays, so you could count on Marc.
He made exciting plays. The plays that he made, they would change the tempo of the game.
All down in the end zone for a safety. And that's going to ice it right there. This one is going to be history for the UNH Wildcats.
It's like a guy coming up hitting a home run, being like, oh yeah, we're in this game. He made plays like that.
The hand at the end, just he didn't even go down when he took the dude down. I ran through like hot knife through butter. Literally, that's what it looked like. Threw your quarterback down, and I didn't even get dirty. That's me. I did that.
Yeah. I played with a whole bunch of players who played in the NFL and played against a bunch of players in the NFL, including Marc. But he was by far the most dominant player I'd ever seen on the field, either side of the ball.
I tell you what, we're gaining momentum and people love our team. And I just want you to know one thing. How about them Spiders, everyone?
Marc took our program on his back and allowed us to be recognized as a winner again.
When you're on the field, and everything else just dissolves away. Your one mission in life is to get better today. And he did that every single day. He got better every single time that he suited up, every single time that he watched the film, every single time that he was in front of the rest of us showing, how does a Richmond football player act and behave. He did that every single time.
It was different when he left, and that's no disrespect to anybody, but when he graduated and I still had another year, it was different. I thought I was good. I'll tell you what, man, when quarterbacks are throwing like this, it can make you feel like you're the greatest DB on the planet. All of a sudden, they're standing in, they're following through, oh man, it's a different game without Marc Megna.
The vision always is of number 54 in the backfield. I will say that, and he's still to this day, 20 years later, our season and career quarterback sack leader.
In terms of a player, passionate about what he does, how he goes about his preparation, and how he played the game like it was the last play he was ever going to play. Second to none.
Marc Megna was the best football player I've ever been around in my days of coaching.
Marc Megna is one of the finest players, if not the finest player. I mean, disruptive, accountable, dependable guys that I've been around in my career. Now, he could be a pain in the neck now. He could be a son of a gun. But you talk about wanting him, you want him by your side when you're taking that field, you're playing Delaware, you're playing Villanova, you're going up to Rutgers, you want Marc Megna right by your side.
I left Richmond and Marc left Richmond. They broke the mold on a player, how it should be done when Marc left. Haven't seen another one like him.
I said the greatest player I've ever coached or I've been around was this guy, Marc Megna from Fall River, Massachusetts.
My entire life, I've been surrounded by people who end up created a story or told themselves a story because they don't like the way things are going. So they have to believe in another story. And there was only one story for me. It's going to be insanely challenging. There's going to be tons of adversity, but you're going to ride this thing out. And it doesn't necessarily matter how it ends, but you will see it through. And that was the most important thing for me, because I viewed it as I'm laying the foundation for my life down.
I had great information on Marc from the Richmond coaching staff, who I value and who I trusted. And they said, you need to see this guy. This guy is a dominant player. He's a competitive guy. He's got all the right stuff. I went to University of Richmond to meet and to work out Marc Megna, and geez, everything they said was dead on. And he'd really been a defensive lineman. He'd been a dominant defensive lineman that I was going to try to had the opportunity to coach him, transition him into a linebacker, either an outside or even a Mike linebacker. And when I actually put him through movement skills and worked him out, I tried to kidnap him that day.
I remember Coach Cullen telling me, those scouts are here to see you. And that was, to me, when I was in high school, it was, you think you're better than you are. And now when I was in college, I didn't think I was as good as I was. So it reversed itself. But it was shocking to hear that they were actually there looking at me. Some of the storage closets were converted into very small rooms for the restricted earnings coaches. And when the restricted earnings coaches would leave, they were empty. So I put together a plan that I was going to live in one of those closets for training. And that way I had, easy access to the athletic facility for the weight room, and I could walk right to the track and train my sprints and my 40. The only thing in that room was a TV outlet and a phone jack. And I had a mattress on the floor. I had a phone, push button phone, and I didn't spend much time in that room. But draft day came around, and I remember getting up early, having breakfast at the cafeteria. I was playing a little bit of basketball, and I knew I had this feeling, you dream of going in the first round, but I was a long shot at best, and I was thinking, if it happens for me, it's gonna happen on the second day. It got to be too much, so I turned it off, and I'm not watching it on television. At that point, I don't really know where they are in the draft, so I don't know if it's going to happen, and I'm kind of on the fence, hoping it can still happen, but not sure if it will. The phone rings, and I answered the phone. I said, hello, this is Marc Megna. And they say, do you know who this is, son? And I said, I think I do know who this is, which is the most odd thing in the world because I had never spoken to this individual on the phone. I don't remember ever hearing this individual's voice on television, but I knew who it was. And he said, this is Bill Parcells. I'm the head coach of the New York Jets. I'm thinking about taking you with this next pick.
Well, I'm sitting in my house saying, okay, I'm watching the draft.
was 180-something pick, and not even paying attention. And then next thing you know, across the bottom of the screen, you got drafted by the Jets. I'm like, yeah.
It just brings that
But then you go, yeah. But then you're like, the Jets. The Jets, exactly. The Jets.
He said, "Congratulations, son. Welcome to the New York Jets."
Fall River has never had anybody get drafted in the NFL, and it's the first time ever. It was definitely a proud moment for people here that they were excited about it. It never happened, and I don't know if it ever will happen again.
And so once Marc really gained the name recognition, it kind of brought a little bit of a spotlight to Fall River and, gee, who's this kid and where's he from?
Anyone who makes it to professional athletes is almost, to become a professional athlete, is almost nuts. I mean, they have to be driven beyond normal understanding.
And I remember being filled with such pride because I think it was a mini camp they had with their rookies. And, they were asking Parcells about, the guys who came in. And I remember the quote. He said, I'll tell you one thing. He said, the guy from Richmond will go till he hears a glass break. And I remember thinking, like, what the hell does that even mean? But I guess it means like he'll literally just run through a wall.
It started off good, and then quickly I realized that I didn't have a lot of reps at linebacker, and it wasn't turning out the way I thought it was going to turn out. And, I go through training camp, and then I'm one of the last guys cut, and I went from the best place in the world, feeling amazing, walking on water, to absolute devastation. And this is the first time in my life I'm being told, like, I cannot play. It was like a very dark 24 hours, and I went from the worst place in the world, emotionally drained, crying, feeling horrible, like, okay, life is over. Now I need to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then I get a phone call from Bobby Greer, who's the head of personnel for the New England Patriots. And the Patriots say they're going to bring me in and sign me.
Wow, right in the mouth. No chance. Nobody picked up the Marc
Magna, the guy that says the cuts will be made on the basis of can you help the team win games? Well, plays like that help you win games. Well, his stock up tonight.
The feeling that was seeing him run on the field, coming out in that uniform. Look at this.
It is.
It's huge. It's big.
Hey,
get chills on ever just
again,
thinking about it.
When you're from the city, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I've got Fall River tattooed on my wrist. I got the Braga Bridge on the back of my arm.
Yeah.
When you're a Fall River kid, it's in your heart. It's tough to get rid of.
Too long after I got a chance to coach him with the Cincinnati Bengals, and it was you probably heard me yelling about it, from Ohio, because once I knew I had the privilege to coach this guy, most of the world knew about it. They would take 11 guys like him because he's a winner. He's everything you want. I mean, he's going to compete till he dies. His work ethic became one of legend. I had 2 first-round picks, Takeo Spikes and Brian Simmons, and a 3rd-round pick, Steve Foley, and so guys that had been drafted real high, but immediately, when they could you feel Marc. Marc's got energy. Marc's got confidence. He's got competitiveness. Like I said, all the things you're really looking for in a player, he embodies and has as components of who he is. And our players felt it right away, and he immediately fit in. They loved the guy, and so we had him, and there was some concern on whether he can continue to play at a consistent and durable level, and we lost him. I really believe, had we been able to hold on to him, that he would have been have a huge impact on our team.
So I finished the season with the Patriots. I had a great experience. After the offseason, I come back to Foxborough, and I'm told I'm not going to be retained by the Patriots, and that was a bit disappointing, and I felt really down on it again. And it's such an emotional roller coaster. And I get a call from the general manager of the Montreal Alouettes, And he asked me if I'm still interested in playing football. And at that time, I didn't know a lot about the Canadian Football League. But he wanted me to come up there and go to camp with the Montreal Alouettes.
Montreal rocks. Best city in North America.
There's this province called Quebec with its city called Montreal, which is uniquely French, and it gives it all its character.
We have quite a culture of joie de vivre. Like, we love to eat, drink, have fun, enjoy the city.
We have like in abundance, like the joy of life.
It quickly turned into the best city in the world. It's a very, very special place.
He walked into the hotel and I was with somebody, and I'll never forget this because he walks in and he has a little bit of a presence when he walks in somewhere, and I was like, who the hell is that? He walked in and he waited until I was done with my client and came over and introduced himself and gave me the biggest hug, and said, thanks for everything you do. And I'm like, who the hell does that these days? Nobody.
Me and Marc jailed right off the bat. And we started training together. Dude was wearing me out. His work ethic is just relentless, man, and it's just nonstop.
He would do anything that he possibly could do to win the football game.
When you had a guy that came in and really took it very, very seriously, it forced those kind of around him to kind of raise to his level, because if they didn't, then it made them look lazy or it made it look like they didn't care, and you can't win championships that way.
There was 17 defensive linemen there, 17. And I think they keep 4, actually 5, 3 Canadians and 2 Americans. Every guy was just let go by an NFL team. They're monsters, 6'5", 6'6", 280, 270. And at the time, I'm about 240 pounds and probably the smallest defensive lineman they have there. But what I didn't know is that they got rid of the former coach. They had a brand new coach. It was Don Matthews, who was the winningest coach in CFL history. And he was just more interested in creating a culture and an environment of winners and highly motivated overachievers. He basically cut the whole team, kept a handful of guys, and wanted something different. And I was very fortunate to walk into that.
Our whole deal was we were going to make everything as simple as we possibly could to allow the players to play as fast as they could.
Chris Jones, and he brought excitement to, to Montreal. I mean, we would hold a team to like 80 total offensive yards. We would have like 8 sacks in one game. It would just be crazy. They throw that screen, Marc would be like, pow, he'd be gone. And before those guys get to the line of scrimmage, Marc's already tackled.
As soon as that ball was gone, he was gone. He gave tremendous effort.
And I said, man, this was crazy. Like, I'm loving this, man. You can just fly around with your hair on fire, That was a fit for us. It was great. Marc was always to the field, I was always to the boundary. And it was just like, they tried to sprint out, Marc would go up and down the right now, hit the quarterback, And if he missed them, I got him from behind.
When Marc joined the Owls, it was like, you could feel that there was a bunch of people that were getting together, that were gonna do something special.
We respected each other. We had a common goal. It wasn't a color thing. It was a championship. It was about football.
The way that defense worked was that guys would move around. They'd be playing different positions. You'd have, DBs playing linebacker. You'd have linebackers playing in the 3 technique. You'd have, linebackers coming off the edge. You'd have defensive ends dropping back into pass coverage. All stuff that we see now, but it wasn't as common, pushing almost 15 plus years ago.
He would even ask questions that he already knew the answer to, but he knew that somebody else didn't know the answer to. So he would bring it up because he knew the other person was probably a little bit nervous about looking dumb or whatever. And so Marc would ask the question so that would benefit. And he always used to make this little look. I can't even describe what the look was. And I knew what he was doing when he was asking the question, because when he finished the question, I could tell that he knew the answer. He was like making sure somebody else knew.
He just taught me a lot, man. He just taught me a lot about toughness, consistency, communication, accountability, tenacity. He just taught me so much, man. And we just became brothers, man. We did everything together.
It was hard to always kind of get a read of, was Marc happy, was Marc sad, or was Marc, he was just kind of intense all the time. You could see that intensity on the field. You could see that intensity on the sidelines. Like, he, the way he would chase a play down from the other side of the field, it was, the fans didn't miss that. Like, they saw it and they appreciated it, and he was a fan favorite.
So I remember spending a lot of time at a very popular restaurant called Buona Notte in Montreal.
Max and Marc met at Buona Notte.
And I ended up talking to one of the owners, Massimo Lekis, and he loved talking sports and he loved the inside scoop. And we would go back and forth talking about players and, arguing about who's better. And he would ask me about the game and how I prepare, how I train. And we became fast friends.
Like brothers that may have just met, but it's like they've known each other their whole lives. Their inside jokes make no sense. Sometimes they're talking and I don't understand anything they're saying, and they're cracking themselves up, and I'm like, you two are just you're geeks. Like, nobody thinks you're funny except you two.
Oh, let me start all over. Starting all over. We always had athletes come by and personalities, rock stars, movie stars.
I mean, the lines would be down the block. You couldn't get in. You could never get in, especially Grand Prix weekend. I mean, Montreal was just crazy nuts.
Going out with Marc Megna in Montreal was like amazing. It was like being part of a movie or a TV show. Marc was it. Like, he was very popular.
I mean, if you've seen how Marc looks, you can kind of figure out how it was, right? I mean, I was like the luckiest wingman ever. I mean,
and that's the thing that we did. When we walk in and out, I'll be honest with you, man, we was like rock stars, man.
He had, the hair down to his shoulders. You had, good looks.
Marc would come in and he's like Superman, so all the girls would be like, wow, like, who's this guy?
The Alouettes at the time, like, because they were so successful, like, as crazy as it sounds, like, they were bigger than the NHL team, and the NHL team is the Montreal Canadiens, which is one of the most historic franchises in sports. Every game was sold out. The team was very, very active in the community, and, Marc was a face of the franchise.
We get picked up and we're driving out, and there's a billboard, and Marc's on the billboard. I mean, it's him, and I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. And here Marc is the face of the Alouettes, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. And we just went to a place, and, it was pretty crowded, and it was like the movie Goodfellas. Like, the people were moving tables and creating spots for us to sit. We were getting everything for free. Marc it was like walking through Green Bay with Brett Favre.
That's what people don't understand down here in the States, is the fact that, up in Canada, those guys in their respective cities, I mean, they're superstars.
People wanted to talk to him. People wanted to take their picture with him. And he was always so nice about it. And it didn't matter if they were interrupting him or we were at dinner. He was always great about things like that.
Marc Megna is still a name up there. He can go into Montreal. They're going to know who he is.
I think we probably have the same record. We probably still have the record for consecutive sellouts. Like, you couldn't get tickets.
The stadium was jammed. Everybody was talking about the Owls. It was humongous.
We had Anthony Calvillo, who was a great quarterback, Ben Cahoon, our offense, man. They was like the best offense on turf, sort of like how the Rams were, back in the day.
Then there was all these other guys that Marc was hanging around with, Thomas Haskins, Anwar Stewart. They were all like joyful people that were like always like great energy. When they were here, they were like at the peak of the Owls, history.
First year, there were 400,000 people or something like that at the Grey Cup parade. We were on, the back of trucks, and it's the biggest Grey Cup parade that I've ever been involved with was in 2002.
He has, I think, you asked me something. I think he has a knack to weed out the good ones and the bad ones. And not a guy who needed 12 friends, maybe 3 friends, 4 friends, but super solid. I think that's his biggest thing. And, you surround yourself with good people, good things are gonna happen.
He led by example. When he needed to speak up, he would speak up. He wasn't necessarily the rah-rah guy, but he played with great emotion. He's a natural leader.
He's very appreciative of the people around him, and that was one thing that I recognized, where it was like he recognized, you know, the work I was doing. And, you know, if I'm breaking down tape or I was drawing up practice cards and that type of thing, like, you know, a leader like Marc, like he saw that and he understood how that was like important to the team, and like where, you know, my small role, where that fit in our overall goal of, you know, winning a championship, and how it truly takes everybody to achieve a goal like that. You know, he thanks you for that.
1 second never was wasted worrying about Marc Megna. You knew he was going to be on the bus. You knew he was going to do the right thing. You knew he was going to have the call. You knew he was going to communicate the call. You knew he was going to help make adjustments on the sideline. You knew he was going to give tremendous effort. You knew he was going to train and he was going to recruit a certain percentage of the other players around him.
I jumped in the air over an offensive player, and one of my teammates was pushed in the back and his head went through my knee in the air, and I tore everything in my knee.
He almost lost his leg. That dude's like, it's really bad. Like, I'm like, so I go see him and I'm just like, man, like what's going on? And finally, like, it took a while, you know, to really get him back. And then as he's getting back, there's like a shift. There's a shift in like the front office.
You know, I think he thought he was going to get an opportunity to kind of show that he could come back from it. And then I don't believe he was ever given that opportunity.
That was like definitely a very, very tough moment for him. You know, his mom was obviously back home, his brother was back home, and he was like alone in Montreal.
The thing I didn't like about it is, man, we're family. We talk about how we're family. We've won so many games. We helped change this program. This dynasty, like, we're working on some really good things here, and I'm just like, you don't turn your back on people, you know, especially the ones that really help you and care for you. And one of the things that I found out about football is that you can love football, but football don't love you back. And it's cold, but that's sports and that's the business, right? And so the way they treated him was just, it wasn't right. You know, it wasn't right at all.
When he left, people noticed, right? Like, it definitely, like, Marc's hustle and how hard he worked on the field was at such another level that after he left, it was like, if we lost a game, you know, especially from a fan's perspective, it was like, well, you know, like, Megna might have made that play, or he might have recovered that fumble, or like, we need his energy, or we're like, the bench isn't at the same level of intensity. So, you know, his departure was felt in a lot of different ways, and it's a reflection of who he is as a person, and, you know, what he brought to the team and the community.
My hips, everything was so shifted, and I was in so much pain all day that I didn't know what was going to happen to me, if I would remain on the IR, or maybe it would just get better in a few more weeks. But, you know, in professional sports, they couldn't wait. So I was released, and that was a pretty dark time, because when I was released, I was hurt and I had no prospects of employment, and I still very much wanted to play football, but athletically, I didn't have the movement or the skills, and injuries had plagued me the last few years. And I just went to a very dark place, spending a lot of time alone and thinking about what am I going to do in my life when I've worked my entire life to play professional football. And it was very clear that had most likely come to an end, and I had to move quickly. I could not get a work visa at the time in Montreal, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was familiar with Miami, Florida, because I'd spent my off seasons there training on the beach in the sand, and then lifting weights, and I would prepare myself for every professional season. But living there is a whole different ballgame. I quickly realized the job I went down there for wasn't for me, and I had a background in training. I had trained some athletes on my team in Montreal. I had trained people privately, and I was obsessed with healing my body and making sure I had a better quality of life. And I felt like I wanted to give that to others. And at the time, I was training at a corporate gym. The personal training manager wanted me to work there, and I thought about it. and realized like that's something I really wanted to do. So I started working at a corporate wellness facility, but it was a very challenging time because I went from playing professional football at the highest level to, you know, being a ramping trainer in a gym that no one knew me, and I had no reputation, no clients, no client roster, and I was being treated like a beginning trainer, which was very humbling to say the least. But I did know that I had to check my ego and say, if you really want to do this, it's not going to be much different from anything else you've ever done. You have to, you know, do whatever's required. And when they ask you to do it with enthusiasm and do it better than anyone else. And that's exactly what I did.
Less than 1% of the people who would do what he did there in terms of, okay, you know, you want me to wash the floor? I'll do it. I want to wash it better than anybody's ever washed the floor in the history of the earth.
His hours are insane, and I'm like, wow, you know, he's really like working 12, 13-hour shifts and taking free clients in the very beginning. Like, he really had to work his way from the very bottom all the way up to the top.
It's not going to be easy. Nothing in your life has ever been easy, so you just have to stay in it and commit to putting in as much time as possible. And after several months, it started to turn.
When he walked in the gym, it was like head down, and it was from A to B. You know, like there was no time in between. There was no wasting time. You didn't catch him on the phone, like just messing around during downtime. There was no downtime. He was in and out.
Marc's work ethic is, I mean, it's like maybe I've never seen anything like it.
I had a different trainer. I had a couple of different trainers during that period of time, and who were good guys, but, you know, they weren't Marc.
I've had 30 trainers probably. He's like the best trainer I've ever had. And it's because he sets the standard of excellence.
Marc, first of all, doesn't let me get away with anything. Now, I don't know how he is with everybody else. I think it depends on what you can take. So he adapts.
He's kind of crazy. He's a warrior.
I would walk in there and he'd be training arguably the top baseball player who ever lived, Alex Rodriguez.
People were talking about how he was training A-Rod, you know, and he had been on the fitness magazines, and so he was kind of a big deal.
His will to succeed, you know, he's like unstoppable.
His drive and persistence I was so amazed by, because every day he was, you know, in there at 4 a.m. and working on himself, and then taking his clients 5 a.m. and on.
It was just something that I enjoyed so much, and it was really rewarding for me because I was helping people, because I was trying to improve my quality of life through better living, health, and wellness, and now I could pass it on to them and get them on course.
It's good. I was a little bit tired, but I got some energy from that workout we did this morning.
So tell me everything you did today.
Woke up, hit emails, came here, cleaned the gym, trained with you. I've done 2 clients. I am going into my 3rd. I have 2 more after that one. Then I'm gonna prep for my meeting with the training staff. Then I have the meeting with training staff. Then I have a speech at Beach High. And after that, come back for clients and do more administrative stuff. And then gotta train the high school kids again tonight.
Beautiful day.
Yeah. It's really not crazy, you know? It is what it is. It's like that for all trainers, really. But I just try to get a lot accomplished, you know?
But I didn't learn Marc and who Marc really was until I started working out with Marc. That's when the game changed. Marc is crazy, right? He's legitimately crazy. And that's what I love about him, is that there's very few people you can meet that you could say he's crazy and meet it in a positive light. He goes to the outer limits. And again, it's in everything he does. When we work out, Marc turns on once we get to the point where he's starting to get tired. That's where he kicks in. So most guys work in complete opposite. We were on the VersaClimber actually. And when we were done with the warm-up, which I thought was the workout, he's like, all right, we're gonna do back today. And I'm like, all I'm gonna need a break. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom really quick. I felt nauseous, I was dead. He would only get stronger as the workout went longer. So that idea where most guys are dying, he finds that place and that's what gets him going. Like that's what motivates him. Working out with him for that year changed my life completely. I am like, who I am today is because of that experience that I had with that guy. My everything changed. My standards changed. My expectations of what life could be like changed. It all, like what I was capable of changed. The only time he uses science in training is when he's training clients. But when he's in the gym, he's just trying to break his will, his own will. He's trying to break it and see if he could still finish the goal. Like, can he still get it? That is what he's doing. He's not working out. Like, he is literally just trying to break his own will and see if he could still stand up at the end of it.
You know, I just started to see, like, I'm like, there's gotta be like something else.
It was time for him to pursue the next phase in his life.
I want to help people on a larger scale. So how do you do that? And a good friend of mine who was a sports agent, he said, you know, you need to have your own place.
Him and a friend of his, Danny, had like put together, thought about this plan.
We were drawing diagrams and like putting around ideas, and, you know, to the extent where we were looking at real estate, like, hey, we could build a big building and, you know, we'll put the field on the roof and, you know, all these crazy ideas. But we were actually trying to put the steps in to make it happen.
The concept of anatomy was put together by Chris.
I ended up signing a lease on what's now the first anatomy. And after I signed that lease and I started building it, obviously I started searching for the best people in the fitness industry. And Marc's name came up a few times through different people, but Danny Marto, a friend of both of ours, a mutual friend that was involved in the beginning helping put this together, set up the meeting with Marc and myself.
I thought it could have been a great fit, like to just put it all together, to put Marc and Chris together.
Everything I was told about Chris from Danny was positive, and he was a worker, and he really wanted to do something special. And it's good to be surrounded by positive people who are like-minded. So we had a conversation, and you could tell that we had a lot of the same thoughts on what we wanted to do. Not only was the facility going to be special, but we wanted to create an amazing offering of service and community and create a special culture.
Chris came forward and said, hey, this is a great spot. They wanted to do something else, but I may be able to work something out with them. And then boom, then it started really coming together.
And I was thinking, man, this might be something I actually do. To that point, I don't think I ever had a thought to be a business partner or be involved with other people because I wasn't a business-minded person.
Miami Beach is a tough place. It's very competitive and seasonal, and you know, it's a tough place. I mean, 1 out of 10 businesses must fail.
You know, it was a risk. You know, every time you go into business, it's a risk. And this isn't like, you know, it's a unique thing. It's not like opening up a watch store or a cafe. There's a way to do it. Like, how do you do this? And they created something like that was outside the box. Like, you know, it's different than every other gym.
I think Marc was a little bit in his comfort zone at that time.
You have to be uncomfortable to grow. So Marc knows that. I know that. I know that with training with Marc. If I'm comfortable in what we're doing, I'm not getting anything out of the session, actually. I'm just maintaining, right? Well, you know, we're not there to maintain. We're there to become better. And the same thing in life, same thing in relationships. It's those uncomfortable moments. They're the moments that you know that you need to have.
Great effort. Seriously, great effort.
Marc was a football player, and then Marc was a personal trainer. Marc wasn't a manager. He never built a business. He never hired and fired anybody. That wasn't his skill set. He never had 15 employees reporting to him with issues. How do you deal with these issues? There was no manual. There was no corporate, governance that he would call. There was no HR. There was no anything.
One of my close friends in life a mentor. He would be someone that I would always bounce things off of. And I asked him his thoughts, and he said that, you know, it was probably time to transition into something. And he really gave me some great advice. And the more we talked through things, it was becoming clear that we certainly wanted him involved because, you know, not only is he a special person, but he's a very savvy businessman.
It took a little persuasiveness, and I know Marc at that time was thinking about doing his own concept as well. I brought him by the space. He fell in love with the space, and you know, the rest is history.
Then I just saw him like putting those pieces together while he was still grinding away all these hours and all these sessions in Equinox for years and years and years. And it was really cool to see that whole thing come together.
The talk started to come out about anatomy, and that was creating a lot of friction, a lot of issues there, because, you know, in the company there is a non-compete, and so it created a lot of stress for Marc. But on top of that, he loved that place. He had been there a decade. That was his home, you know. He worked out there in the mornings. He was the only guy with the key, you know, and he built a relationship with the entire community there.
You could see it's weighing on him.
He's so on that end where I feel like he has to be 100% or nothing. And it's definitely challenging. He would be gone from 3 a.m. until 7 p.m. And it was insane. The hours were like crazy, and not sleeping. For many, many years, what people don't know is that Marc only slept for 4 hours a night for many years. And I was like, this is not good for your health. You're promoting health and wellness, and I love you, but like, you can't do this to yourself. And I would just see him like push through the exhaustion. And
so he decided right then and there, he's like, I'm just gonna cut ties. And he put himself in a tough spot because he could have easily just continued training and then transitioned over. But instead, he cut his business early. Anatomy hadn't even been finished yet, and he had to started bouncing around, doing private training, which is difficult.
It took an amazing amount of maturity and wisdom, considering he hadn't actually done that before. You know, he's shifting into something else.
Usually when a person is that sensitive and a person is that driven, that it usually comes from the mom.
So my mom had an issue on Christmas Day, and it was a brain bleed. It was like a mini stroke, but she had multiples and we weren't aware of it. She had a major issue with her short-term memory, and we had gotten to a place where it was, we had figured out a way to take care of her in the most positive way. She was actually up and moving around. She was doing very well, despite the circumstances. And it was an exciting time because we were planning our wedding, Melanie and I, and the anatomy was going full force, and everyone was working hard for opening day of the facility. And one of my dreams was, you know, a couple for my mother to see not only the wedding, but to see her son do well and to do something really special, that being anatomy. And about 2 months out, she had another massive brain bleed, and she was in the hospital. I flew up there and I was with her in the hospital for a better part of a week. And
it wasn't that easy because it was a long process with our mother. She had, you know, Alzheimer's, and it was tough.
Sorry. It was challenging to see her in a coma in the hospital, and I'm spending the entire day, you know, in the room with her, just watching her and holding her hand. And we kind of knew she wasn't going to get out of that one. And I basically, you know, I watched her pass, and it was, no matter what you hear from friends or family and who goes through it and shares it with you, that'll never prepare you to lose, you know, the most important figure in your life.
But it brought us closer, you know? Brought us tighter.
But any time that the father is not there, the breadwinner, how do you raise a family? You put all that pressure on the mom? It's all about family. And I really feel badly that there are people similar to Marc that single parenting and how much he's missed out of life. And that is something that it hurts every day. But his mother never gave up. She didn't give up.
Opening that during that time was difficult for him.
He lost his mom young. That's tough for anybody, especially with the relationship that they had. And in the back of my mind when he was opening that gym, and I know how difficult it is to open a gym. I can't imagine how difficult it is in Miami. I was really rooting for him and hoping everything worked out, because losing his mom and then having struggles with the gym would have been tough for anybody to deal with.
We started off, we put the wrong message out there, like it was too expensive. So we started off, it was scary for a while.
The business was going down the tubes, and there was a point in time where we were ready to throw in the towel, just hand the keys back to the landlord. It was a really, really trying time.
The place was absolutely beautiful. We made a few mistakes. We put, I come from nightlife, so I put this big, beautiful staircase in there with a DJ hookup and thinking we'll put DJ, but the room was small and it cut off half the room. So overnight, me, Marc, and a couple of the construction guys, we actually tore the whole staircase out.
So we had to pivot really quick and turn this into a pure member gym with a wellness and a recovery center, and bring in the best possible people we can and then execute a plan.
We really got to see each other in some desperate times. That was a bonding and growing experience for both of us. Thank God our partner, Barbara and Randy, believed in us and saw the potential, and it was starting to change a little bit, and they stuck by us, and thank God it hit eventually, and now we're off to the races.
The business turned around immediately. That was really his pivotal moment also, where he turned from a personal trainer to a person who knew how to be a manager, a leader, and build a business.
I think that's why he makes it so hard, because I know he's had a lot of pain growing up, and even when he lost his mom, I know that was tough. So I think that the reason that he puts himself in those predicaments, where he presses himself to the max, to feel that pain is just to kind of reinforce that he can get through anything. If he just pushes hard enough, he can get through anything. Because again, man, I've seen him go through some difficult things, but I haven't seen him skip a beat.
He doesn't know this, but I'm like, so he was scouted. Yeah, this guy, Joe.
Marc has no idea how much the people there who work there and train there, how much they really respect him.
If anybody knows my brother, he's up in the gym at 3, and he doesn't come home till like 8, and then he's just a worker. I mean, he just loves fitness. He loves helping people. He has a gift.
You find something that you want to do, and you do it every day. Every day. That's it. There's no magic to it. There's no secret. It's literally find that thing that you want to do and do it every single day. As you grow more confident in it, you'll do it a little bit harder. You'll do it a little bit more. And just through that process, eventually, you get to the top of the hill or wherever it is that you're going.
He's in the gym training. He's coaching all the staff and people over at Anatomy. He's consulting with his clients. He's checking on people. The guy's relentless.
I feel like he's invested not only in his clients, but also in the people that work for him and making them, you know, as good as they can be.
Everybody who works for him now is looking at the guy who built this house, and he's in here at 3 o'clock, 3:15 in the morning, and he's picking up garbage. He's got a mop, he's cleaning the floor, and he's turning the lights on. He's doing every possible thing.
It all comes down to Marc, his leadership, and the culture that he instills. It's a self-selected group that are trainers there and that are training at Anatomy.
I've never met a person that can build a team better than him.
Everyone has a role to play.
He's the ultimate leader, you know, everybody looks up to him.
Everyone who works with him, everybody comes in the gym. When he's in the gym, they're on their toes. I mean, he's defining, you know, excellence in his business. And for him, it's not just about the gym, it's sort of his life philosophy. It's how he kind of does everything.
As a trainer, he is the top of the top of the top, but that's one tiny dimension of Marc. Marc's ability to understand an issue and distill it down unemotionally is very unique.
Ultimately, you know, when you train with somebody like Marc, you know, you understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and you wouldn't do it any other way.
Every day's different. I'm shocked. I've been working out with him for a while now. And you know, I don't know if we ever do the same routine twice.
Marc knows when I walk in to train, he can tell if there's something going on, if I'm in the middle of something, did I sleep well, whatever it happens to be. And he can adjust the workout accordingly.
You're seeing him in the light as like a CEO is pretty cool. And he's being as gracious, fun, laughing, engaging. I mean, just perfect businessman. And everyone there looks up to him. Different than the way that he did it at Richmond, right? At Richmond, it was more of a follow me, it was more of a serious nature, right? Different now. He still has that in him, but he's adapted, right? That's not what's going to attract a 45-year-old person maybe to work. So he's had to adapt, keep the same core values, but adapt.
One thing I love, like, obviously he's a humble guy, and you know, everybody wants to be successful and make money, but it's not the leading factor for him by far, which, you know, you know, it's nice to see.
You know, he makes people's lives better. That is something that I think is important to him. He understands it, and it's a gift.
Even if you look at his Instagram, he's not trying to be flashy in any way. He's very consistent about his message, about his content. He'll post a rowing video every single day because that's who he is, that's what he's doing, and he's just trying to share. He's not trying to, you know, come up with something that he's not or do something that he doesn't normally do. He's just showing you, really, this is who I am, this is what I do, and I hope that you can take something from what I'm doing and apply it in your own life.
Everything I do is hard for me. There's nothing that comes easy for me. Since I was a little kid, things were always challenging. But I realized, like, I actually enjoyed that part. That's the part I enjoyed the most. I think it's almost a curse if you start off really good at something, because then you don't realize how hard you have to work to get to a special place. But the trick is to get any sort of success really slow and then work really hard to get there. I realize that there's so many people nowadays in this world who just, they work incredibly hard to look for a shortcut. And the truth is, no matter how smart you are, no matter how smart you work, you still can't avoid the work. It's work smarter, not harder, but you cannot avoid the harder, no matter what you do.
Marc always had everything organized. His shoes a certain way, you know, shirts all folded nice in his locker and stuff. So what we would do is we would move stuff around and we would watch him. He put it back. All right, I'm gonna move something small. I'm gonna move his shoes over just a little bit. And I'm gonna see if he'll pull them back. I'll sit there and I'll watch him. I'm like, man, this dude just moved them back. Sometimes he'd come in, we would just knock everything out of his locker. I mean, it was mean, but it was like for fun. We would just take everything and just dump it down on the floor. and see if he could just he would put everything just like he had it. I mean, it was just, most would be like, well, I'll just put him in there any kind of way. No, he had a certain way of doing things, right? And those certain ways, things that he did then is what he's doing now. He had a vision, right, of what he wanted and how he wanted it. And I look back at how we used to do his locker and what he's doing now, and it's just like, look at this, like, man, like, this is, right? And I'm learning. I'm like, today, I'm learning. I'm just like, I get it, right? I get it. Details.
He's just a great example. I mean, I aspire every day to work like Marc.
I've witnessed in him a work ethic that I've seen in no one else. And that's what's special about him. And that's what's special about this story is, look, it's not like he worked hard 90% of the time. It's not like he was like, okay, I'm gonna give 95%. The guy gave 100% all the time. And he ended up as an undersized kid from Fall River with a career in the NFL and the CFL. And now he's not doing so bad in Miami. He's got a little empire he's building down there. So that's all hard work and determination.
They have to see it. It's hard for a kid to say, look, I'm just going to work hard and things are going to work out for me. To be able to see someone that has done it and have a blueprint of, if you work hard, if you're determined, you can get to this point. And, to this day, Marc is still doing those things that he did when he was 10 years old. People seeing that is the best model for a young kid to be able to say, look, if I do these things, if I follow this blueprint, if I work hard and keep my head down and do the right things, I can be successful. That's what I think about, when I think about Marc and success and working hard for it.
This should be seen in every high school. And more than just once. Because there needs to be a constant reminder. All the excuses that young people have today to fail, Marc didn't buy into that. He stayed strong, never lost his self-discipline and his expectations of himself and his lifestyle of honor and integrity and clean living.
Anything is possible. I mean, Marc is a prime example of that.
He's from Fall River. No one ever gave him anything. He earned this.
I know a place where we can go to lay the troubles down, meeting your soul. I know a place where mercy flows. Take the stains, make you whiter than snow. Like a tide, it is rising up deep inside a current that moves and makes you come alive. Living water that brings the dead to life. We're going down to the river, down to the river, down to the river to pray. Let's get washed by the water, and rise up in amazing grace. Let's go down, down, down to the river. You will leave change. Let's go down, down, down to the river. Never the same. I've seen it move in my own life. Took me from dusty roads